In this video, we're going to go over how Python relates to a program called MySQL. I'm uh, programming a database programming language called MySQL. So, in your book on chapter 13, towards the end at 13.3.3, it talks about SQL, a structured query language. MySQL is a type of is a freely available database programming language that's also developed by Oracle, same folks that currently own Java. It is a highly complex but also widely used uh, language, and you can make Python and MySQL uh, work together. So first things first, you have to download MySQL. So let's go ahead and open up a search engine, and we'll go to www.mysql.com, and then we're going to go to downloads, and then let's go all the way down to uh, community downloads, and then you're going to click on MySQL for Windows or for whatever operating system that you're using. If you're using Mac OS, will also have a Mac OS selection. You download this. You download the MS installer, and it'll pop up a instance, and you'll just follow the directions. If you try to download the Python connectors, you won't have it because you have to install them and pip install them. Unless you already have Python, the 64-bit version of Python installed. So I already have this installed. I'm not going to reinstall it, but uh, it'll open up the community downloader, download all the stuff that it says you need to download. It's pretty intuitive, but let's go ahead and the other thing that you need to download is do a Google search of MySQL Workbench, right? And you go ahead and go to MySQL Workbench, and you'll download a workbench that's suitable for you and your operating system. So go ahead and again, you go to Windows or whatever operating system that you're currently working on. It'll be Mac OS for some people, Windows for most other people. If you're already using Linux and Red Hat, then you're already super advanced. You already know how to do this. So go ahead and click on that. And the Workbench is sort of like, you can think of it as the compiler for your SQL databases. So already have that installed. Just go ahead and follow the directions on that. Something that I will say that you will need to do is make sure you don't use strongly encrypted passwords. Just use a regular legacy password, um, and you'll be set and good to go. So let's close that out, and we'll go ahead and open up PyCharm. All right, so I already have a program here, or in a project titled MySQL and a program and database. What we're going to have to do here is manipulate, or not manipulate, but add more pips for Python. We'll do a pip install, and we'll add stuff using PyCharm, more libraries using PyCharm to basically, it's exactly what it is to connect with your MySQL database. So let's go up to File, Settings, or Preferences on Mac, and we'll be in the Project area. Click on Interpreter, and we'll add a module. And we'll go search out MySQL, and we're going to download a couple of modules. So let's go ahead and download install this package, this package, MySQL connector, tag Python, repackage, MySQL connector repackaged, and then finally, let's try to download Python tag RF. And then I always get this error on this machine. Not particularly sure why, but there are certain things that you can do to mitigate that. And what you can do is we can close out of this, out of the package install, okay, and then we'll go to the terminal and we'll type in this phrase that I've already had pre-saved. It's pip install MySQL connector Python equals 8.0.11. And this will install the MySQL connector Python tech RF, which allows you to import the MySQL.connector library. So you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So you run this pip install, downloads the library, and you'll successfully install the library. Over here, I have this pre-installed on my computer using multiple previous methods for this pip install. So you'll have a download bar here. It'll show you your progress. So we'll go up here, and then we'll go ahead and import the MySQL library, and then you want to download connector. Now you won't have connector if you don't download this this particular pip. Pro tip. And so we'll go ahead and use that connector, and now we're cooking with fire. We're going to be able to manipulate MySQL databases using this library. So now let's go ahead and take a look at MySQL real quickly. So, or I have an instance of MySQL opened up, right? And so here's my MySQL workbench, right? Let me minimize this real quickly. At least try to. So right here is a local instance of MySQL, or I did wiped out all the schemas, but so what you can do here is test connection, right? And what you want to do is type in, it doesn't really matter what the connection name is. I'll type in SDCCD test, right? And we want to put in a password. It doesn't matter what password it is. It's whatever password you inputted when you opened up MySQL. So for me, it's SDCCD. And click OK on that. And we'll go ahead and test the connection. And the connection has been successfully made with MySQL. All right. All right. So we'll go ahead and OK out of that. So that's my new SDCCD test, and that's my root. So with that, we can go ahead and manipulate my local instance of MySQL 8 in Python. So you can definitely manipulate this manipulate MySQL using the workbench. That's what it's designed for. However, there are certain instances where using MySQL might not be possible, or is more convenient using Python. So all the MySQL library does is import certain functions and functionalities and keywords into Python, and allows you to manipulate it in whatever Python interpreter you're using currently. So let's go ahead and do let's do two things. Let's create a MySQL database, and then let's make a MySQL table within that database. So let's go ahead and go here, and let's create a variable local instance, and we'll call it my database, and we'll set that equal to MySQL. I'm calling a method connector dot connection. All right, and within this this method, we're going to call a few arguments. All right, so we're going to say our host is equal to localhost. And then we're going to say our user is equal to our root. And finally, we're going to say our password is whatever we set it up as, but for me, it's going to be SDCCD. All right. And so those are my my args. All right. And so we're going to go ahead and test and see whether or not we have any databases on board this particular computer. We know they are. You saw them, but this is how we can show that using a Python code. So we'll say print my database, and we'll go ahead and run this, and it'll say, yep, it'll say this will indicate that yes, there's that database. But we also need to create objects that exist within that database. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's comment this out, and then we'll say my cursor. Not cap on my cursor, and we'll create an instance of a cursor within this Python code. So my cursor is equal to my database dot cursor, and so now we've created our local instance of our database cursor, and so we'll go ahead and say my cursor dot execute, and we're going to go ahead and create a database. Create database, and we'll call it we'll call the database class info. Okay. And so we'll go ahead and execute this. And so now we don't have an output here, so we don't know what where that database is actually executed, exists within our root. So let's go ahead and see whether or not let's go ahead and comment this out and try to see whether or not the database we created actually exists, right? So we'll say my cursor, and then we'll say my cursor that execute, and then we'll say inside of here show databases, and we'll create a for loop to show all the databases that exist. So let's say show database db in my cursor. We'll print the database. All right, so iterate through each database and show them in our console area. So let's go ahead and press this. So we have the standard databases that are here: class info, information schema, performance schema, and then sys. So all of the expected databases showed up. Our class info database showed up. So now Now that we've verified we have a database inside of our SQL instance, let's go ahead and make a table. Let's fill that database with information. So let's make a new Python file. We'll call it tables. And we're going to import, we're going to use the same stuff here. So copy this. But we're going to add in one more thing. We're going to use the database name. It's going to be equal to class score info. And you want to use, again, the my cursor. We'll create an instance of my cursor is equal to my database, and we'll use a cursor, and we'll go ahead and use this instance of my cursor to create a table. And how you do that is type in a piece of MySQL code, create table. And inside that, we want to put students, and we'll say name will be characters up to 255, and then age will be integer 10. So everything inside this parentheses is MySQL code, not really applicable to your Python. And let's go ahead and execute my cursor, and then execute show tables. And well, actually, first we need to actually create the table. So let's go ahead and execute the command to run tables, and then the table should have been created. We'll go ahead and uncomment that, and let's do the same thing we did last time with the databases. We'll say for table and my cursor, we want to print out print the tables, and we'll also want to delete this line 12. And so we'll go ahead and run this code. And as you can see, there's the student table, and we'll open up our instance of MySQL. And inside the class info area, you have tables. It's open up. We'll go ahead and put in my password, which is sdccd, tables, students, and then you have a columns you have name and age. So this is a down, quick, and dirty introduction to MySQL. I wanted to do this instead of using Python, which isn't really used outside of this book. But I just want to show you how to do it in Python and using PyCharm. Like everything else, this is just the basics, but I hope this was useful.